Oh, welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It is TJ, your host, and we are still in our list of games and roles from the catalog within John Powell's book, Why Am I Afraid to Tell You Who I Am? The next one I thought I'd cover is The Body Beautiful. Our author informs us that usually physical vanity is a compensation for a gnawing sense of inferiority as a person. The beautiful or handsome people who play this game love to stare in the mirror on the wall and into the mirror of the eyes of other people or any other shiny surface, looking for their reflection. Why do they do this? Well, they're doing it because they can't find anything deeper. There's a sadness that hangs over this type of vanity. Life is obviously over at 35, and in the extreme, these people identify who they are with their body. If you were to ask them, hey, what are you? Their answer would be, I'm good looking. And if they could be honest and open, they'd add, nothing more, just good looking. The next on the list is the Braggart. This is a childish game, an attempt where someone wants to assert their superiority. It's one of the various manifestations of an arrested emotional development. This type of person is also usually a bully, if the situation would allow. Now, these people want to dominate others, either by words or, if they're really sure of themselves, by physical strength. The indication is a lack of self-esteem. They want to feel important, but they don't have anything they can find inside themselves that satisfies the need to feel important. So they do these things, and we are tempted to ask, are you trying to convince us or yourself? The answer is both. Now, the next one I can identify with because I've played this role before. It's called the clown. Compulsive clowns, this author says, are, like most of us, looking for some kind of recognition or attention. The sad part of it is that they think they can gain notice only by playing a fool for others. Deeper than this, they may identify with their act and try to escape reality by taking nothing at all seriously. Being the clown is sometimes an escaping device. They just don't know how to handle themselves in a serious situation or how to react to something sad or tragic. They adopt instead an attitude of irresponsible gaiety. Not that kind of gaiety. And when they deal with others, this clowning serves as an adequate defensive mask, kind of like the mask of a circus clown, which prevents others from knowing who they really are. They'd rather laugh and joke than face the grim realities of this life. They'd rather put their act on stage than lay who they are on the line. Next would be the competitor. Our culture has programmed most of us to accept competition as part of some divine plan. Competitors must win at whatever they do. They make everything either win or lose. They do not discuss, they debate. The triumphs they seek, so often at the expense of others, nice guys finish last, may be the outgrowth of emotional deprivation or lack of approval earlier in their lives. The resultant insecurity causes them to question their own worth. They're always trying to prove this worth with competition and rivalry. Their need for recognition intensifies the drive to move ahead. And these types of people feel a hostility towards anyone that they feel may be standing in their way or surpassing them. Sooner or later, they will be overcome by a sense of failure because the appetite for victory becomes increasingly voracious. In the end, they failed to prove that their superiority is there, and they end up in frustration. Basically, the problem is they cannot distinguish between themselves as a person and their accomplishments between being and having. Next on our list would be the gossip. People who play in the gossip game, like most game players, are in there for sensitive personal stakes, unable to make full use of their own abilities and being defeatists at heart, and they feel sorry for themselves because they just can't measure up to their own ego ideal. They choose to elevate their own sense of self-esteem by undermining the esteem of others. Adler calls it the derogatory critique. It's much easier to tear down others than to lift oneself up by achievement, superiority and inferiority being relative terms. Lowering other people down seems to raise their own status. Then our author, John Powell, mentions Benjamin Franklin, Freemason. He says once he said that if you want to know somebody's faults, praise the person to his or her peers. Gossiping can also be a salve for sensitive guilt feelings. We love to recite the misdeeds of others so we won't have to feel so bad about our own misdeeds. This accounts for our eagerness to learn the latest scandals from the newspapers, magazines, and so on. This media that we have, fake news, after reading about terrifying murders and child sex ring pedophilia, they readily oblige and comfort the gossip. Our own sarcasm and anger just doesn't seem to be such a terrible evil. The gain of the game, elevation of ourselves, and greater ease in living with our regrets. Next would be the hedonist. In quotes, the author says, "My pleasure before all" type people try to hide their emotional immaturity under various euphemisms, such as just for kicks. But the childishness surfaces quickly in relationships. It's like a child and a neurotic, which is an emotional child, that they must have their pleasure and they must have it now. They will not inhibit for long any impulse to indulge themselves. They're not able to suspend this grasping they have for pleasure even long enough to look at the implications of their actions. The inability to postpone pleasure eventually leads these hedonists to seek their pleasure in all things at anybody else's expense. When the stimulus of pleasure to be had is registered, the response is automatic. Now, our author claims that these types of habits come from being overlooked or misunderstood as a child. Well, now they can do all these things, but they don't have the logic to realize how retarded this actually sounds. The next one here is I. It's the almost universal law that the extent of egocentrism in any person is proportionate to the amount of pain in him or her. It is a question of attention. We can't give much attention to ourselves and to others at the same time. We only have a limited amount of attention that we can use. The destructive or diminishing part of pain is that it magnetizes attention to ourselves and to whatever our pain is. So those who are suffering from a toothache to the loneliness of old age tend to be egocentric. Preoccupation with the self can evolve into hypochondria, which is an over-concern with health. Hypochondriac. Or paranoia. Now, many people cannot fashion themselves to be the center of the universe and then live comfortably with this fact that others do not accept them as this. Whatever pains our past programming has left in us, such as inferiority, guilt, anxiety, and so on, these pains will inevitably lead us into the pitfalls of egocentrism. Now, these people don't mind what the conversation's about as long as it's about them. Eventually, they'll fall into emotional depression because living in such a restricted world is living in a prison. They will suffer even more than the other people who are forced to live with them or to work with them. The next one I've been, and I probably still am, it is indecisive and uncertain. Now, he says it's been said, the greatest mistake somebody can make is to be afraid of making mistakes. Uncertainty and indecision are ways of avoiding mistakes and responsibility. If no decision's made, well, then nothing can go wrong. The inclination to avoid decisions is sometimes manifested by dragging out as long as possible the ones that we actually have to make. Guilty! Yes, the only real mistake is not to learn from our mistakes. The basic problem here is self-esteem and the protection of self-esteem. People who are indecisive are afraid that they'll lose respect if the decision they make turns out to be the wrong one. Like if you're going to take out a date you want to impress, and the date says, "Where are we going to go?" And you say, "I thought I'd take you to a movie," and there are 5 different movies to pick from, and you are afraid if you pick the horror flick, the date might not like it, and it might ruin the evening, and oh, you can't live with that. So it's, oh, what do you want to see? What movie? You have 5 to pick from. That way, you're not responsible. The author states that only little people, someone has said, are never wrong. We learn more from our mistakes than from our successes, he says. Indecisive people are so focused on their own egos and personal value, they just don't see the validity of these truths. Let me think about that one. The name of the game is safety and self-protection. The motto, nothing attempted, nothing lost. Very often, this indecisiveness results in those who have been programmed by multitudinous and sometimes contradictory instructions and moralizing, or who have been reproached and embarrassed for past mistakes. Finally, being indecisive can result in people who attempt to support more emotionally burdening problems than they can solve. They usually become rattled and cannot solve any of them. Wow. The last one on our list for tonight's presentation will be a very important one, which expands beyond just the scope of what we're looking at here. Prejudice and bigotry. Now, this game is the outgrowth of a social neurosis that flourishes chiefly among the people who are insecure. People who are prejudiced need some kind of vent for their emotional hostilities. The personal development of the chosen scapegoat or boogeyman or terrorist in this situation will certainly not be helped if he or she is abused in this way. Gordon Allport, in The Nature of Prejudice, suggests that prejudice arises from our anxieties. We feel insecure, so we form around us an in-group as a kind of buffer for protection. Those outside of this in-group are thought to be a threat and to be a menace. I lash out at them because I'm somehow threatened by them. I cannot logically suggest why, though many reasons are adduced. But anybody who's not in my in-group is necessarily a threat to me if I am highly anxious and insecure. Now, these words are pretty strong and they're pretty good. He says prejudice is an emotional delusion. Still, wherever it exists, it's never recognized as this by those who are afflicted by it. Bigots will inevitably try to explain their prejudice away in some kind of fake intellectual terms. They would never admit the irrationality of their position, but the very term prejudice means a premature judgment, a judgment made before the evidence has been considered. Now, here we go. Our society many times helps. I was about to say this, and he says it. I forgot. The society helps us with the work of the rationalization needed to explain our prejudices. Most bigots, therefore, don't have to work out their own rationalized, logical explanations. They can just recite the well-rehearsed lines. I'll take it a bit further. You can look at these terrorist attacks. Pretty much I'm convinced anything you see on the regular mainstream media that's a terrorist attack is fake. It's orchestrated. It's staged. And they do these things to program us to hate people, like the Muslims. Even though I seriously doubt the Muslims have done anything, but they're credited with being the terrorists of this country and that country and our country, and it's designed to divide us. So we think, oh, I hate those Muslims. Oh, I'm scared of them too. Well, no, that's a different subject for a different video. But anyway, stay strong and realize that these games regular people play, and you can also see a lot of them in the Cluster B Monster. Peace.
Hi, I'm Sandy Hooker with a special news announcement for you. Coming to you live from TV5. I've got my little friend here. I haven't decided yet if it's a rat, a cat, or a mouse. It sure is cute though. Anyway, this is a special public service announcement. And this is Bandit, and he supports every word I'm about to say. I've been thinking a lot about the Newtown, Connecticut massacre, as they call it, which we found out was a fraud. Oh, I know, I'm not reading the teleprompter. Sorry, I don't agree with what it says. Anyway, my time's limited. I just wanted to say that these gun-grabbing, hoax, retarded things are ridiculous, aren't they, sweetie? Aren't they? Don't these fools know what they're trying to do is legislate the gun laws for those law-abiding citizens like, most people, myself excluded. But all these stupid, retarded gun grab efforts do is punish the innocent, punish the law-abiding citizens. I think it's fucked up. It's retarded, and it is stupid. Oh, not forget. This is my opinion. I'm allowed to give it, I was told. Anyway, hi. My name is Sandy Hoaxchart. I'm here to bring in the transhumanist movement. I am part human, and I am part machine. And I am beautiful. If you want to be like me, call the number on your screen and we'll tell you how to get there.
Hi. Welcome to Transgender Cruise Line. I'm Lola Lust, your sexy hostess.
I am the narcopath. And I'm also Lola Lust. And Sandy Hooker. And Sandy Hoaxchart. Accept it. I have multiple personalities because I was a victim of MK Ultra. Now don't you want to show me some sympathy? Who cares if I lied to you? I can't help it. Ugh.